All right, folks, welcome. Thank you so much for being here to this Knowledge and Network. This is one of the two types of, well, actually more like three types of programs that we offer here for y'all. I'm constantly, as Amanda, the education person here at TPA, listening for what you would like to hear or learn about. So please do not be quiet. We want to hear from you. Use the Slack channel, send me an email, education@thepodcastacademy, and blow up that chat. We will be chit-chatting in the side. We do not frown on that here. So folks, as you know, TPA, the Podcast Academy, that's what we call it. And today we will be having an amazing talk by the fantastic Robyn. I'll introduce Robyn in a minute about everything that you need to know to get yourself ahead for your 2023 goals. But you know what? It's all the baby steps. It's a little overwhelming to think about the whole year. So, that'll be among the many things Robyn, I'm sure, will help move us through. Awesome. And I did want to quickly push out the fact that we do have some other programs. We have the TPA Masterclass as well to handhold and accompany this amazing talk by Robyn. We'll have the incredible Jamie Albright from Tenderfoot TV, a producer, as well as our incredible board members and really intrepid podcasters, Chris Colbert of DCP and Podstream Studios, and Ami Tucker, who has published over 100 of her own independent podcasts, which include luminaries such as let me think here. Who did she just have on there? It was a big deal. Well, you'll have to find out and go to that TPA Masterclass, won't you? And then lastly, if you haven't yet, the signups for the TPA mentorship program for spring 2023, encompassing February, March, April, and May, is ongoing, and it's closing this Friday. So please be sure to check your mailbox. January 9th, a big email was sent out, or you can check out Slack. There's a TPA mentorship channel, or in the TPA mentor members, we have announced the details for that. And you can always email me about that. Anywho, this is sponsored in partnership by the State of Women. So if you are interested in joining this, we get a special discount for TPA members. It's a very giant network of people across the world who are female and non-binary in the podcasting space. And the founder of the State of Women, Anu, has also some really exciting big stuff that she's launching this year. So good person to know. Robyn can attest, has met Anu, a wonderful human. She can't be here because she's at Davos right now. Well, I didn't get the invite, but maybe some of you will. Anyway, quickly, Robyn is just such a gift to TPA. Robyn is a longtime mentor, early member, early adopter of TPA, and is a podcasting coach. So certainly I thought we've got to get Robyn in here to give us some really good tips on startup. So without further ado, again, please continue introducing yourself, connecting in the chat. Robyn, I'm going to stop sharing mine, and I'm inviting you to share your screen. Thank you so much for being here, everybody.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Hello, everybody. Let me get this screen up and running. So everybody should be able to see my screen. If you want to drop a yes or a thumbs up in the chat, let me know that you can see the screen. We'll get this party started. Nice to see you all today. I'm excited to be here. As Amanda mentioned, hi, I'm Robyn. I've been doing this for a while. I've been working with podcasters since 2016, in addition to running a company called Launching Your Success and a podcast called Unf My Business. I have also been a TPA member and mentor since the beginning. It has been my joy and privilege to work with podcasters. I am an indie podcaster, and I work primarily with indie creators, but I think even if we have some seasoned pros here today, you are bound to get something out of today's presentation. And I'm going to give you some tips and some tools. I also went down the data rabbit hole, so you're going to learn some things about where we think digital content is going in 2023. But if you are one of those people who has not set any goals or resolutions yet on January 18th, allow me to give you permission to relax. If you look at the agricultural or seasonal schedule, this is actually the worst time of the year to try to set goals and plant seeds. Like, this is when we should all be hibernating and resting and reflecting on last year. So if you're one of those people who always struggles to set goals in January, welcome. There's a big club of us, and you don't have to actually start doing any of that work until like late February, early March. Early spring, in my opinion, is one of the best times to be setting goals for the year. So take what you learn here today and all of the content that TPA has in January, synthesize all that information, and then set your goals once the sun starts to come out again. I promise you'll be much more successful. So as I mentioned, I went down the data rabbit hole in preparation for today. I very strongly believe that data tells a story. And so I wanted to not just give you anecdotal suggestions and tips and tools based on my preferences. I wanted to give you tools that would help you based on where experts in the industry see the industry going in 2023. So I looked at a lot of different reports and predictions for 2023, not just in podcasting, but digital content and the economy at large. Here are 3 of my favorite resources. At the end of my talk, I'm going to put links for all of the resources and all of the tools that I suggest today. But Pacific Content has a great 2023 breakdown. The Reuters Institute report is particularly mwah. It has got some great information in it, and you can download the PDF. So when I drop that link later on, please make sure you go look at that one if you don't look at anything else. And then I also like Rob and Elsie over on Libsyn's The Feed, always do a great job of taking complicated data and information and making it really simple to understand and apply. And so if you listen to their 2023 breakdown episode, you'll get a lot of good information out of that as well. So the tips and the tools that I suggest here today are really designed to help you address some of the specific trends that I saw in all of these resources. So let's get into it. Some of the common trends in all of the 2023 predictions and breakdowns were, number 1, connect with your audience. Amanda can attest, anyone who's ever worked with me can attest, this is a huge soapbox issue for me. So I was like, duh, when I saw this in all the reports. But I'm going to try not to soapbox y'all today, but we are going to get into this topic in a little more in depth here in just a moment. We are also, many of the experts are predicting a continued economic squeeze and possibly some more social media shakeups, which is going to drive more people to the digital audio space in particular. And they're also predicting that subscriptions and memberships will be on the rise and possibly the future of monetization for digital content. So we're going to look at each one of these in particular. Also, a quick disclaimer, I'm only going to be able to scratch the surface with my suggestions today, and I typically don't talk about stuff that I don't use. So anything that I recommend today is stuff that I've actually used before. There are many more tools out there, so please use this as a starting point. My goal today is to get your brains thinking and give you a place to start, and then you can go down the rabbit hole and find the best tools for you and your show. So the first trend we're going to attack today is connecting with your audience and your community. This is a big one for me because if you don't know who your audience is, every other tool and technology and process out there isn't going to help you. If you don't know who you're talking to and why, if you don't know why they're showing up for you and your show, most of the rest of the stuff I suggest today really isn't going to pay off for you. So if you haven't already done the work to really get to know your audience, and I mean intimately get to know your audience, then please make 2023 the year that you do that deep work. So if your show is new or if you're still getting to know your audience, one of the tools I love to start with is a website called Answer the Public. So if you have ever used Answer the Public before, you know how cool it is. Answer the Public is a place where you can type in a keyword. So whatever your show's topic is about, type in a couple of keywords, and it will literally give you the exact words and phrases that people are typing into Google to search for that topic. And not only does it give you the exact words and phrases of your potential audience, it breaks them down into different mind maps. So here's all the why questions, and here's all the how questions, and here's all the what questions. So it is a great place to start to figure out why people are looking for the topic that you're creating content about. And then as you start to explore those questions, it'll really give you some great insights into who are these people? Why are they looking for this content? What are they worried about? What's keeping them up at night? You can glean a lot just from seeing the exact questions that people type into Google to search for a particular topic or content. So if you're just getting started and getting to know your audience, I think Answer the Public is a great place to start. Next, if you feel like you have a pretty good sense of your audience, but you've hit a wall or you're ready to take it to the next level, I always recommend hiring a professional. And if you can make the investment in yourself and in your show this year would be a good year to hire a professional to really deeply, intimately get to know why your audience is coming to your show. And so you can develop and deepen that relationship and turn them from casual listeners into rabid fans. We want our listeners to be evangelists for our show. We want them to be telling everybody that they should come listen to our show. And if we don't know them, we can't make an emotional connection with them, and we can't turn them into those evangelists on our behalf. So this year might be the year to hire a professional. There's tons of us out there who specialize in really understanding and giving you the words to attract the audience that we know is out there. I know your audience is out there. I know there are tons more people who need to hear your show. You just need to get to know them a little bit better so that you can put out the exact words and phrases that they need to hear to know that you're the place that they've been looking for. And then once you have a better understanding of your audience, go hang out where they hang out. Joining the conversation, not just inviting people to your conversation, but joining the conversation at large, hanging out in community, hanging out where they already are, is one of the best ways to grow your audience and grow your show. One of the things that Rob said in the Libsyn feed is that even in 2023, collaborating with other podcasts is still one of the best ways to promote and grow your audience, right? You have a shared audience with another podcast, guaranteed. And imagine how much beneficial result can come out of collaborating together versus possibly being in competition with one another. It's not a zero-sum game. I could shout that from the rooftops. It's not a zero-sum game. There is tons of audience out there for all of us. And so if we can collaborate together, that's great. Coming to events like today, anytime you can come to one of these networking events through TPA or any other organization, podcast creators are also podcast listeners. And I can't tell you how many shows I personally have added to my subscription list because I met that person at an event or at a conference, right? I am a podcaster, but I'm also a rabid podcast listener. And there are tons more of us out there, right? So if we hang out with other podcasters and go and meet and rub elbows and talk about our shows, we're guaranteed to pick up some folks along those lines. And then I really think this year is going to be the year that in-person events really start to take off again. So whether you can make it to a large event, a few off the top of my head, we've got PodFest at the end of the month. There's Evolutions in LA, I believe in February. She Podcast is coming back again in June. There's tons of great big events out there, but I highly recommend go find your local podcast meetup, go find your local creator community, and go join the conversation there. I have watched so many amazing collaborations, successes, growth, show explosion come from local podcast meetups. There's magic there. So please, please go find it. If you can get out there in real life and hang out in person this year, this is the year to do it. All right. The next trend I want to address a little bit is the economic squeeze and social media shakeups. One of the interesting things I saw in the Reuters industry report is that they asked publishers where they're going to be putting most of their resources in 2023. And the number one thing on their list was podcasts and other digital audio, which means there's going to be an influx of listeners coming into the space. There's also going to be an influx of new creators, right? And so media personalities with marketing dollars to spare not only bring maybe a little bit of competition, but I think what we tend to forget to look at is they're also going to bring a lot of attention, right? So new people coming into the podcast space are going to bring a ton of attention, which is going to also bring an influx of new listeners. And what I saw really interestingly in the reports is this influx of new listeners is all ages. So a lot of the reports tend to focus on Gen Z and Gen Alpha, who are just brand new to podcasting coming into this space. But some of the other reports were pointing out that we've got a huge number of baby boomers who are retiring and will suddenly have a lot of free time on their hands, who are also going to be discovering podcasts. And there's still that forgotten chunk in the middle of Gen X and the millennials who were still gaining new listeners from those generations as well. So there's a ton of new listeners coming into the space, in addition to the new creators who might be coming in because of economic downturns, layoffs, social media platform shakeups as well. They're going to bring some competition, but they're going to bring a lot more attention. And so my advice for that is to get ready. Get ready. One of the things I joke about with my clients all the time is, are you ready? If I handed you 5,000 new listeners tomorrow, are you ready for the impact of that influx of new listeners? Do you have your infrastructure and your organization and your systems and your processes streamlined and locked down? Chances are a lot of people don't. And so the joke I used to make all the time is, are you Oprah ready? How many times have you heard about some little business going on Oprah, or some author being promoted on Oprah, and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people go to the website and they crash it, right? Because that business was not Oprah ready. Oprah doesn't quite have the impact that she used to in the past. So now my joke is, are you viral TikTok ready? If a TikTok video blows up and sends tons of new listeners your way, are you ready to capitalize on that? So make this year the year that you get really organized and streamlined in your content creation and your production process, so that you have more time to be able to capitalize on the attention and the influx of listeners that everyone is expecting we're going to get here in 2023. Some of my favorite tools for that: Trello. Amanda can attest, I'm a huge Trello nerd. I've been a Trello user since way back in the day. I love Trello because it is simple to onboard people with Trello. It can do some really complicated things, but it can also still do really simple, basic things. There's a low barrier to entry with Trello. There's a low learning curve. So if you're solo or a team, you can use Trello to organize and house and keep track of all your content. You can also take it to the next level, especially if you are outsourcing any part of your podcast production process. Somebody else does your social media or content creation. Somebody else does your editing or any of those things. Trello is a great place to keep everybody on track of where each episode is in the production process, without having to have a million messages go back and forth or a million emails go back and forth, because you can communicate with each other right within the platform. So it's a great place to organize your content. It's a great place to track your production process, especially if you have a remote team or you outsource any part of your production. But the true magic with Trello nowadays is they now have built-in automation features. So not only can you create a production board, but you can actually automate that production board. So when one person is done with the episode in their responsibility, they can hit a button, send it over to the next list, tag the next person, and that person knows that it's their turn to take over and do whatever they have to do with that episode, like write show notes or create graphics, whatever the case may be. So if you can get it to the level where you're actually using the automation tools within Trello, it is going to save you so much time that's back in your pocket that you can use to go cultivate this audience of new listeners that are coming in 2023. So Trello is best for automation, ideation, tracking all your content. You can use it solo or you can use it as a team. Couple of steps up from that, ClickUp I've used on a couple of projects. Where I think the magic really is with ClickUp is you can do all the same things you can do in Trello, but ClickUp really has these great tools for goal tracking. So if you have big goals for your show this year and you're sharing those goals with other people, it is a great place for everybody to see where you are in progress towards your goal without one person having to be responsible for rolling up all that information and reporting it back to everybody. You can create these great goal dashboards where everybody can see where you're at the same time. Also, if you have an engaged audience, ClickUp might be a great tool to get your audience involved in goals and things for your show. So if you want to run a social media contest and you want your audience to be able to see like how much you've grown your Facebook or how much you've grown your Twitter, you can publish those things on a ClickUp dashboard that the public can see. So again, you don't have to spend the time rolling all that information up and then publishing it out to your audience. So it's great for team goal tracking, but it's also great for getting your audience engaged in any sort of goal tracking or contests. And then the last one I will recommend to you in this section is Airtable. If you are a pro, if you are a freelancer, maybe you're a freelance producer or editor who manages multiple shows, Airtable might be your new best friend, because Airtable is kind of like Trello and ClickUp on steroids with these amazing dashboards. So you could literally put all of your shows that you're managing on a single dashboard and see where every show is in one glance without having to dig into different folders, different boards, etc. I've managed huge corporate projects on Airtable and only had to look at one page. It is a really amazing tool. It is a higher barrier to entry. It's a little more complicated. It's a little more expensive. But again, if you're managing multiple shows, the ROI of this tool it is immeasurable. It can really save you a ton of time if you're managing big projects. So those are my recommendations to help get you and your show organized so that you're prepared for this influx of both creators and listeners we're expecting to see come into the digital audio space in particular, but I think also digital content in general. The last trend I will talk about this morning is so many experts are predicting that subscriptions and memberships are the way to go in order to monetize and make a profit from your show or from your audience. So much so that in this Reuters industry poll, the number 2 place that publishers are going to be increasing their resources in 2023 is email newsletters, you guys. Old-fashioned, old-school email newsletters work. They work. Email is still one of the best ways to get in front of the people you're trying to get in front of. Side note, because of the social media platform shakeups and things going on right now, I cannot recommend to you enough, if you haven't already started to build an email list for your show, please start. Please start like today, because you own that. You don't own your audience on Facebook. You don't own your audience on YouTube. You don't own your audience on TikTok or Twitter. And as we've seen, those rugs can be pulled out from under you without warning. And there goes all your audience, right? You have no way to be in contact with them again. So please, please, please start driving all of your listeners to your email sign up, because then you own that. You own that relationship, you own that list, and you own that contact and that interaction with them going forward. So a few tools that you can use to own your audience and your content and continue to be ready for or expand any subscription or membership models that you want to build in 2023. Patreon is still king. A lot of people use it. It's great for podcasters, YouTubers, anyone who's creating any sort of digital content. Substack is new to the game. Journalists really jumped on that first, but don't think it's just for journalists and writers. If you're looking for something that's not Patreon, I encourage you to go check that one out. I'm seeing some really creative use of Substack. And then don't underestimate the course creation platforms like Kajabi, Thinkific, Teachable. If you want to deploy a pay-for-content model with your show and with your audience, those platforms are built for that. I think we just tend to think that it's only for traditional courses, but you can do some really creative stuff with those. So if you're looking to do more of a subscription model where you have your free public podcast, but then there's this other content that's only for people who pay for it, these are some great platforms that you can look at using. Now, if your goal instead is to just build more of a community at large from your podcast audience, then you want to look at platforms that are built specifically for community and community engagement. So two that I recommend most often are Mighty Networks and Circle. Circle really got its start in the fitness space. But again, a lot of digital content creators have discovered it and are using it. Mighty Networks and Circle in particular have already worked out the kinks and have some really great tools built in for community engagement. Again, I will say, please don't build your community on Facebook. Or if you have your community on Facebook, please make sure you have every member's email address on your list, because again, you don't own that community on Facebook and it can be taken away from you at the drop of a hat. So if you're going to do the work to build a large community, please build it somewhere where you can control it and you can own it. So if you want to build a community and you want them to interact with each other outside of you, find a platform that's meant for that. And then you're going to use email to support all of that. So ActiveCampaign is one of my favorites. I'm a little biased. I'm an ActiveCampaign ambassador. I've been on their podcast. It's one of my favorite email newsletter management marketing automation tools. There's a lot of scalability with ActiveCampaign. You can start very small and still have a lot of bells and whistles, but keep it very simple. But then if your audience grows, you have the room to grow and really take advantage of that growth and scalability in ActiveCampaign, whereas it's not as easy in some of those other email systems like MailChimp, for example. So I love ActiveCampaign, but I would also recommend, particularly if you're very just focused on content creation and you want to keep things simple, check out SendFox. It is pretty new to the email market, but SendFox is built specifically for content creators. So you fill in a few blanks, check a few boxes, connect your RSS feed, and it will automatically send out a newsletter every time you publish content. So you can connect your podcast, you can connect a YouTube channel, you can connect a blog, anything that has an RSS feed, you can connect it to SendFox and it will automatically send out emails on your behalf. Talk about saving a ton of time. It's also very inexpensive and very simple to use. They may even have a free model to that one. So those are some great tools. You can also just use Gmail. But the goal here is to automate, streamline, save yourself some time. So if you can invest in a tool that's going to do a lot of the work for you and give you back some time to continue to cultivate your audience, please do that. Because again, we're expecting an influx of listeners and attention around the space in 2023. Those are my recommendations for you today. In summary, know your audience. Work on knowing them better than they know themselves, because the more you know your audience, the more everything else you do is going to have a bigger impact, both for you and for them. This is the year to get organized with your show if you haven't already. So make sure you've got your production process, your content organized, get it all locked down so that if somebody does put a spotlight on your show, you are ready to handle that. And then lastly, in support of all of that, don't forget email. The basics still work, and email is still one of the best ways to cultivate a relationship with your existing audience and grow your audience as well. And if you do these things, you can punch 2023 in the face. Okay, wait, that might be a bit aggressive. You can have a successful 2023. So I'm going to leave you all with this quote that I pulled from one of the Pacific content experts that they interviewed for their show. And Georgie from Acast says, "I firmly believe podcasting is where people with hope come to create community, and advertisers who pay attention to that will see the payoff in performance." So my wish for all of you today and beyond this year is that you go into 2023 with hope and you build the community of your dreams and get the attention that your show deserves. If you need me, this is where you can find me. I'll put links in the chat along with the links to all of the tools and suggestions. And thanks for hanging out with me today.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Robyn, thank you. My head is spinning from all the incredible insights. And I think we'll be making an abridged version of this deck available to TPA members. We'll post it into the recorded events where the recording of this event will also be. People always like to ask that. But Robyn, you got a question here. I'm wondering if you take a couple minutes to field a couple questions. And oh my gosh, everybody, I will be also reposting those links. Don't you worry, I'm going to download the chat and I'll put that on Slack as well. I know that everybody's like, copy paste. Where do I save this? Don't you worry, we got you.
Yeah.
But look at, oh my gosh, Robyn, that's like so many tools to take away from. I wanted to, so let's see here. Shrikant just asked a really good question. How much stock, or maybe how accurate are the demographics in these dashboards? Like what data points should you really focus on in those? It is overwhelming. You look at this huge demographic, geo data, identity, income, etc.
In terms of your audience?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think one of my big goals is start wide and then narrow in, right? And so first, figure out who your target audience is, right? Maybe it's women over 40, okay? So that is specific, but it's not specific enough. So then can we narrow that field a little bit more? Women over 40 from this area of the world or this area of the US, women over 40 who've experienced this particular thing in their past, right? And so when I teach branding in particular, one of the examples I use is, when I say, oh, who's your ideal audience? People say women. No, it's not. It's women over 50. No, it's not. It's women over 50 in Chicago. No, it's not, right? We want to get to the point where you know that your audience is Gen X women over 50 who grew up on the south side of Chicago and experienced economic trauma that they are now dealing with and trying to process the emotions because those emotions went largely ignored when they were children, right? And so here's how our show helps them work through the childhood trauma that they're unpacking. If you'll pardon my language, that's a fucking demographic, right?
I just wanted to interrupt here rudely, might I add, because Robyn is touching on something that has to do with listener story and listener personas. And well, gosh, y'all, guess the heck what? We have some programming about that coming up. So Robyn, you staged that beautifully for us. Thank you so much. There's 2 more questions, then we'll get into the breakouts. Although I didn't mean to cut you up, Robyn, was there anything else you wanted to add? That was just a beautiful problem statement and solution that the podcast offers.
No, I would just say that the reason why you create your show may not be the same reason why people keep showing up to listen to your show. And so if your marketing is based on why you do what you do, you may be missing a huge chunk of potential audience. And so this is why it's so important to begin to investigate and understand why people want your content, why they need your content, why they're showing up for you and your show, because now you can message specifically to that. And it's going to get you more. We tend to want to wear all the hats and speak to everybody. And that actually drives people away. You need to get laser focused and target your messaging to about like 5 people. Because the brain loves specificity and people can make connections. And the more focused you get, the bigger your audience draw you'll actually have. It's very counterintuitive.
Yeah, and I think that Shrikant, you added some other thoughts, and I'm sure a lot of people have them. Please do sign up. Go on to the TPA website, register for the listener persona talk that we're going to be giving, and it's going to be happening in February. It's going to be led by Mark Stedman and Emily Penner, marketing folks. They will go deep dive into why you can find the universal in the specific. But I will leave it to the marketing experts here. Robyn is just beautifully setting us up for that. I wanted to acknowledge some earlier comments that were in here. Sirisha mentioned Beehive as a really really good tool and resource. So please go on to Slack and chat about that stuff and share your tools. In fact, that's going to lead us into the breakouts in a hot second, as well as Maya mentioning, you know, something about the number of subscribers that are reasonable to target, or what you're aiming for at periods of growth. Maybe Maya, if you wanted to clarify the question, it might have been, you know, contextual to a point Robyn was making. Feel free to drop it in the chat if you're comfortable, but if not, no worries. Oh, actually, I think Maya had to depart, but that's a good thing too, is just get specific on your goals as well. I want to have 1,000 podcasters in 1 week. Obviously, that's pretty aspirational, but you know, that's the only comment I have. Yes, Shrikant, thank you. Oh my gosh, look at that. Shrikant found our Zoom link. So are there any other quick questions? Like, I think we can take one, and then I'd like you all to get to talk to each other and share a new tool, tip or trick specific to a pain point or growth desire or goal with your conversation partners in a minute. Oh, great. Kira asks, do you have any recommendations for social media schedulers? Oh, yeah. Hootsuite's been used, but it's limited for LinkedIn. That's a really, really good question.
And Hootsuite were great. They were sometimes the first on the market doesn't end up being the best on the market. And Hootsuite is still a little clunky. So not to diss it, but yeah, Seth, Canva actually, if you have a pro Canva, they now have a social media scheduler built in there. And it works beautifully. Let's see. I use one called Pro Republic. Oh, you're going to make me look it up. I'll look it up. I don't want to waste our time at the moment, but here's what I'll do. I'll look it up and I'll drop it into the chat, or I'll also drop it into the Slack. But I'm an early adopter, so I think there's at least 10 that I've used over the years.
Awesome. Yeah.
Some of them are like platform specific. So like if Instagram is where your audience is, then you want to use an Instagram specific scheduler to really take advantage of it. But if you just want like social media in general, there's a few out there, like Content Studio. Content Studio is a great one for you know, multiple social media platforms in general.
Yeah, because I'm willing to spend money. I tried Canva for a month, but I found it to be very limited. Like we weren't able to schedule a lot, and because we want to be able to and it's such a great concept, because Canva, you can create your image and then to schedule that right away in social media. It just it seems like a no-brainer, but I forget what the issues were because my team was doing it, but
yeah,
I was disappointed. I was so excited for it. I'm like, yes, I want to pay for one, like just have it all scheduled. But LinkedIn seems to be the biggest issue. We'll go to post an audiogram of the show, but it doesn't allow us to do it on my personal one. So I got to log in every time to post it. And it's like such a waste of time.
Yeah. So definitely check out Content Studio, because Content Studio will allow you to not only post on your LinkedIn profile, but if you have a business page on LinkedIn, you can post directly to that as well.
Amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Taking notes. Old school.
I'm feeling like the Slack is going to blow up, because I'm going to be posting some of these links on the Slack, and I'm going to invite y'all to continue sharing. I'm using this, and this is my experience. And I think this is such a game changer. Folks, I'm going to stop recording. So thanks to everybody viewing on streaming. Please don't be shy on checking out the Slack conversations, no matter when you're watching this. Let me see.